My name is Eszter Pozsár. I've been working as a local guide for 30 years. That's my day job. Originally, I graduated from the Ferenc Liszt Academy of Music. I am also a performing artist, a jazz musician. In spite of living my whole life in Budapest, I still admire this city. So I feel privileged to get the opportunity to show you around a bit.
Hello, and I'm Kinga and Tittel. I've been in love with this fascinating city for more than 2 decades now, and it also inspired me to write books on Budapest, like Fabulous Budapest and Fabulous Buda Castle. So in addition to being a guide, I'm also a writer, and I'm thrilled to share some of the secret spots of the city with you.
Budapest, the capital of Hungary, is situated on the 2 banks of the river Danube.
Buda is old.
Pest is young.
Buda is hilly.
Pest is flat.
Buda is quiet.
Pest is busy. The unmistakable diversity of the one time 2 completely different cities makes this metropolis so unique. Let's look around a bit.
Let's start with the must-do places. There are some iconic sites in the city which capture our attention no matter how many times we've seen it before. We can't help but admire it whenever passing by.
So let's take a look at the right side of the Danube with Miss Buda.
Rising approximately 770 feet above the level of the water, Gellért Hill offers spectacular views, hideaway places, beautiful little parks, hidden gems like the Garden of Philosophers, and again the view that you get from here is also an unforgettable one. Let me tell you that the view you have in front of you is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Danube panorama, with the 2 sides, and the buildings along the waterfront is protected by the UNESCO World Heritage Foundation. We are on the top of Gellért Hill, or actually on the western slope of Gellért Hill. The hill rises approximately 770 feet above the level of the water, and behind me there's one of the secret gems of the hill, the Garden of Philosophers. Behind me you can see 8 statues of prominent figures of religion and faith. You can see the statues of Abraham, Jesus, Saint Francis of Assisi, as well as Buddha, so 8 figures. And again, as you can see, it's also very popular, a popular hideaway among the locals as well as among the tourists. So here we are at the Garden of Philosophy. On the gentle slopes of Gellért Hill, we have the statues of Prince Buda and Princess Pest here, and the division between them represents the Danube, which separated the 2 sides until 1873, when the unification of Buda and Pest took place. Behind me, you can also see the green dome of our royal palace on the top of the castle hill, and another beautiful view of the 2 sides, although from a different angle. Take a look at the Basilica, the Budapest Eye, and the river in the foreground. Now up on the top of the castle hill at Fisherman's Bastion, which got its name from the fact that in the Middle Ages this section of the city wall had to be protected by the Fishermen's Guild, so hence the name Fisherman's Bastion. It has 7 towers, just like we had 7 tribes arriving here and conquering this land. And from here we get a really beautiful view over the city, and also a really good understanding of the difference between the flat side of Pest and the hilly side of Buda. On the left you can see Margaret Island, and then over on the Pest side you can see 2 beautiful domes. The red dome on the left is Parliament, and the dome on the right is St. Stephen's Basilica. The height of these 2 domes are exactly the same, 96 meters. This number has a magical importance in the Hungarian history, referring to the year 896, the year of the Great Conquest, and also 1896 when we celebrated the 1000th anniversary of the arrival of our ancestors, the Hungarians who settled here. So look at this beautiful view with the chain bridge and all the other bridges, and of course the Danube, which separates and also unites the two sides of Pest and Buda. Still enjoying the view from Fisherman's Bastion. On the plateau of Castle Hill you can see the green dome of the royal palace, which was the seat of our kings for many centuries. And you can see our most famous bridge, the chain bridge connecting Buda and Pest. The castle district has cobblestone streets and houses from the medieval times, with details from the 13th, 14th centuries peeking out on the facades of the building, like the ones you will see here in this inner court. These are sitting bays. There are 64 such sitting bays here in the castle area, which is a unique phenomenon. Nowhere in Europe will you find such a rich collection of these beautiful medieval sitting bays. Look at the medieval details peeking out on the facades of the buildings here in the castle district. This is just one of the many examples. This is like a time travel and the travel in history. One of the highlights here in the castle district is Matthias Church, the church you see behind me, which is dedicated to one of the most popular kings of Hungary, the great Renaissance king, King Matthias, who is one of the two most outstanding kings of Hungary, in addition to King Saint Stephen, who was our state founder, whose statue you can see also behind me. Look at the beautiful, colorful ceramic tiles on the church, which come from one of the famous porcelain factories of Hungary. The midday church bell ringing commemorates János Hunyadi's great victory over the Turks in 1456. Named after the daughter of one of our kings who used to live here as a nun in the 13th century, Margaret Island provides a peaceful getaway from hectic downtown Budapest. The musical fountain behind me is one of the largest in Europe, with choreographed jets of water spewing in the air. It offers a real pleasurable experience. This is one of the many beautiful pieces which are played at the music fountain. This is Brahms' Hungarian dances. You can enjoy the music and the choreography. At the northern tip of the island, there is a Japanese garden with the statue of the Little Mermaid in the middle. Also at the northern tip, there is a musical fountain and pavilion with the statue of Poseidon at the very top. Among the trees of the island, you find some medieval ruins, like the one behind me, a Franciscan church from the late 1200s. In the middle of the island there is a big open space where you can fly kites, and there's also a rose garden which you can see behind me. The best side of the island there is a little zoo with turtles and ducks and some other animals. Some of them you can also pet. And let's take a look at the left side of the river with Miss Pest.
Pest is the younger part of our capital and the commercial side of the city. The big boom for Pest was towards the end of the 19th century. Since then, it keeps growing continuously. There was an old saying, it is good to live in Buda and work in Pest. This idea originates from the fact that Pest used to be an industrial area, which is not true anymore. Real life thrives in Pest nowadays. All the theaters can be found here, and if somebody wants to go out at night, then again, Pest is the place. If I should say one number that characterizes Pest, that would be 96. I'll show you why. Hero Square. This is the largest square of our capital. In the middle of the square, you can see the tomb of the unknown warrior that was erected in memory of all those heroes who ever sacrificed their lives for the freedom and independence of Hungary. It is also mentioned as Millennium Square because it was constructed for the 1896 Millennium World Exhibition. That's when Hungary celebrated the Hungarian conquest, when our ancestors occupied this territory, the Carpathian Basin. Several demonstrations, open-air concerts, public events take place here. Behind it we can find the city park, which is the capital's largest public park, which welcomes both locals and foreign visitors. The Hungarian House of Parliament. This is Hungary's largest public building, and it is probably the most iconic site of our capital. Only the Fisherman's Bastion could argue with it. As Kinga mentioned it earlier, the highest peak of the dome is 96 meters. The square around the building is called Kossuth Square. It is named after one of Hungary's most famous freedom fighters. This is one of my favorite spots in downtown. The capital is making big efforts to create more and more pedestrian areas. Earlier, it used to be a very busy square. There was a parking lot here, traffic was running around it, and recently they turned it into this beautiful green community space. St. Stephen's Basilica is the largest church of Budapest. It is dedicated to the founder, first king of Hungary. It's beautiful inside and outside. There's a wonderful square around it. There are a lot of little restaurants and cafes and wonderful pedestrian streets that leads up to the Danube. The dome of the basilica is also beautiful. Can you guess its height? Yes, you are right. It's also 96 meters high.
About the big statues of Budapest, like the ones in Hero Square, but not everybody knows that the city is full of miniature statues, like the one you see next to me, in front of you. This is a statue of a tank, which refers to the 1956 revolution, which a lot of people are familiar with. And you can also see behind me, you can see our parliament building in the background. So there is a reference to our history and the Hungarian state. These statues are made by a Ukrainian sculptor who has Hungarian origin. His name is Mihály Kolotko, and he started putting out these statues a few years ago. Now there are more than 15 statues at random places of the city. They just appear somewhere, and they usually under the cover of the night, and they stay. People discover them, and they tell others about them, and that's how the news spread, and that's how these statues have become part of what we have now in Budapest. So take a look at this statue. It's so small that you wouldn't find it if you didn't know where to look for it. We are still by the Danube on the embankment, and we have arrived at another Kolotko mini statue. You can see this one next to me or in front of me, commemorating undoubtedly one of the most well-known Hungarian toy inventions, the Rubik's Cube, invented by Ernő Rubik, who came up with this wonderful idea in the 1970s. The Rubik's Cube is more popular than ever among adults as well as among children. Here's one copy. This is a really great pastime to try to work it out. It's a mathematical puzzle and a real toy. Still speaking of Kolotko's famous mini statues, we are now on the Pest side at Liberty Square between the US Embassy and the former Hungarian television headquarters, where under the railing we have the statue of Kermit the Frog from the Muppet Show. The Muppet Show was very popular in Hungary in the 1980s, broadcast from here, from the Hungarian TV headquarters, and Kolokol was inspired by his childhood memories, his childhood years, so this is how it happened that the little frog was put here in the middle of the sky.
Budapest so far has one international airport, which is named after a famous Hungarian musician, Franz Liszt Ferenc in our language. So if you arrive to our country by plane, you are immediately exposed to Hungarian music. Besides being an excellent composer and pianist, Franz Liszt was also the founder of the Academy of Music, which is named after him today. It's a huge, internationally acknowledged institution with several faculties. Does this melody sound familiar? Well, it's Gloomy Sunday. It was written by a Hungarian pianist and composer, Rezső Seres. We are in the 1930s, and this song became the most famous suicide song all over the world. Gloomy Sunday became well known throughout much of the English-speaking world after the release of a version by Billie Holiday in 1941. There is a recurring urban legend which claims that many people have committed suicide while listening to this song. Therefore, the BBC banned Billie Holiday's version of the song. The BBC ban was lifted by 2002. Rezső Seres lived in the 7th district of Pest, and he often played at the nearby Kispipa restaurant.
Budapest is also famous for its many market halls, which were built in the late 1800s, like the one that you see behind me. There is also a Saturday market in the front of it, but inside the market hall you find all the Hungarian specialties, from our national spice, the paprika, to many of the delicacies, including our deep-fried dough, the lángos, which I'm going to show you and you get a chance to take a closer look at it. So here we are inside one of the many market halls that Budapest is also famous for, and I ordered one of the Hungarian specialties, which is called lángos. This is a circular deep-fried dough which many Hungarians associate with summer vacations spent at Lake Balaton, but lángos is available all year round. If you look at it, the crispy inside yields to a steaming, doughy inside. It's really yummy. The most popular version is topped with sour cream and grated cheese. The smell is wonderful too.
About 2 minutes from St. Stephen's, there is one of my favorite restaurants called the Strudel House. Unfortunately, I've always had a sweet tooth. That puts me into constant battle with the Hungarian rétes. Well, it looks like a strudel, but the Hungarian version is a little bit different from the strudel that you can get in Germany or in Austria. The pastry of German strudel is thick. In case of the Hungarian version of this dessert, the pastry is thin. It consists of several very thin layers. The name of the pastry in Hungarian is rétes. It comes from the word réteg, which means layers. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So it's a classic apple strudel. You can see the filling is pretty much the same, but as you can see, the pastry crumbles. Let's take a bite. Yummy! Have you ever traveled with a chairlift? Most probably yes, and that must have been because you were skiing. Well, let me tell you something. Hungary is a flat country, so skiing is definitely not #1 sport in Hungary. But still, we must have it, just for fun.
The chairlift was built in 1970 and it takes you up to the highest point of the city, János Hill or John Hill. The ride takes about 15 minutes each way and there's no ski slope under it, so it's just a real fun ride and a must-do for locals as well as for tourists coming and visiting Budapest.
I hope that we make you want to come or come back to Budapest.
We really look forward to showing you all this and many more secret gems of Budapest.